What is up, everybody? So, taking a few weeks off the podcast. I don't think we've missed an episode in the last 2 years, and I'm pretty sure I've only missed 1 or 2 episodes in the last 3 years. So, yeah, taking a few weeks off, just going to change a few things up next year. 2025 is going to bring a few different styles of podcasting, all that sort of stuff. So if you're listening along on the podcast platforms, make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe there, because that's where a lot of this content is going to be coming out. But yeah, you're going to have something to listen to over the next few weeks. Anyway, I'm going to try and pump out 2 episodes a week. We're going to recap some of the best episodes, starting with episode 183, which was the evolution of depression, mouth breathing, and much more. This was the most downloaded episode we've ever had. So download, listen to, and also comments and feedback from you guys on this episode. Obviously, I think it was the evolution of depression. That conversation there brings up a lot of good questions that you can ask yourself, and just ways to think about happiness as well. So make sure you check it out. Listen along, and yeah, I'm going to bring you a few more of the hits over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. See you all soon. All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the In-situ Health and Fitness Podcast. On today's episode, we are wrapping up the last couple of weeks with interesting facts, teachable moments, and fun things that we know will help you live a long, healthy, and happy life. A couple of great podcasts we've done over the last couple of weeks. If you haven't listened to them, I'd strongly recommend go back. We had the psychology of daily routines. Was that the title?
Yeah, that was the title. That was the title. Good job.
Very different for us, I think.
You know what's ironic about this one? Sorry to interrupt, but we recorded it and then we were like, was that good? Should we do it again? Should we change a topic? Do we need to structure it differently? Like, something was wrong about it because it was different. It was so different to what we normally do. Not necessarily in the structure or anything, but just in the topics that we talk. I guess in the structure, like the way that we structured the episode and the topics we spoke about. But it was a success.
So just to give people a bit of a wrap up on it, Mac come across a study,
an essay.
An essay, and it was about, obviously, the psychology of routines, and she just read out a title or
I just took like the ideas, like I think 4 of my favorite ideas from the essay about like the psychology of routines, and then we just discussed like what we think about them, how it relates to us, how it relates to you guys.
Our experience of clients and how it relates to them.
So it's more of just like a discussion on ideas, which is, I really like podcasts that I listen to that are like that. So it was a little different to how we normally do it. But I think that we always talk about like change, right? And that uncomfortable feeling when you do something different. And like, we've obviously haven't done anything different with the podcast for a while. So we had that uncomfortable feeling. And it's just like, it was a really good reminder to myself that the uncomfortable feeling isn't necessarily bad. It's just different. Like, we just did something different, and that's fine. It's okay. We survived.
And we got a lot of good feedback from everybody listening. Yeah. So a lot of people that I didn't realise actually listened to the show reached out and said, that was a good episode. So I was like, you actually listened to our podcast. So thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for those that reached out and let us know and actually gave your thoughts on those topics as well. And then big Q&A last week, which was awesome. A lot of good questions. And again, a lot of feedback on those questions. Not feedback, but your opinion on those questions as well. Again, don't be afraid to do that. We always encourage you to reach out and chat to us about the podcast. You can do that through the contact us link in the show notes, or find us on social media. You'll find In-situ
podcast.
Link in show notes. But reach out there, and you can have a conversation with us there as well. Cool. That was our podcast for the last couple of weeks. It come up again. I was working out for clients, and it sort of always comes up, and it's a good question. I think it's a really good question, a good thought process, or a thought to have and actually think about your training life and all that sort of stuff. But we're working out, and he's been trying to reach a certain weight with a certain amount of reps for bench press. I think he was talking about 10 reps with a dumbbell bench press, and he's trying to get to a certain weight. And he's like, is that a good weight to get to? And I was like, well, yes. He's just like, well, what's a good weight to get to with that amount of, and it's sort of like, again, like how long's a piece of string? Like, and how long do you want it to be really? Like what are you using it for? So at the end of the day, like if you're chasing, I always say chasing weight or performance goals in the gym is a good way to, stay motivated, reach goals, whether it's physique, strength, all that sort of stuff. So it's really good to chase weight goals, like dumbbell, like lifting weight goals in the gym is a really good motivation to get things done and really stay on track to get things done, like achieve things. So, but again, like at what point do you stop? And it's just one of those ones where...
Why is it all the guys that ask you this question?
You never have that thought?
Not at all. Like, I feel like maybe it's a bad thing, but I think that when I'm training, I am just like, what can I do now in this session? Like, what feels like a really hard weight for me right now? I'm not necessarily thinking about the weight I'm trying to get to. Like, maybe if I can lift more weight on this day, cool. If I can't lift more weight the next week for this same exercise, also cool. I don't know. I feel like I'm very day oriented because I don't have like a long-term goal. Like, I'm just exercising to feel good, look good, be able to pick myself up off the ground when I'm an old lady. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think I have many external goals like that. And maybe I get too stuck in just the session alone. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
No, I'm definitely the same. I could not be like, you always get up me because I never follow the program.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
I write all these great programs for us and I never really follow it because I'm just like, I follow it vaguely. I never record my weights or anything like that because I just don't care.
Yeah.
I guess if you go through that and you do that and you continue through your health and fitness journey, it gets to a point where you are literally just doing this long term. So, it doesn't matter if your weights are increasing or not because you're just going to be doing it anyway.
I think that hopefully, I think that it gets to a point where it's just a part of being a human. Like, you sleep because you have to sleep, you eat because you have to eat, you train because you have to train. Like, I think that's where I'm at, and I feel like that's probably a good mindset to have because, like, otherwise it can just be too external, and if you aren't hitting the external goals that you set, then it can be disheartening, and then you just don't end up training at all. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's not like it's like, bench, deadlift and squat. Once I reach these numbers, I'm done.
Just stop exercising.
And look, obviously I said chasing goals is really good, but yeah, at some certain point you just realise that you want to do this for a long time. The numbers are definitely not going to increase. But yeah, I just thought that was a good way to sort of start the session off. Just everybody sort of think about your goals a little bit deeper. It's always good to chase heavy weights, but think long term, not short term.
Yeah.
What do you got?
What have you got?
So this clip, I can't remember if you sent it to me or just noticed it because you liked it and it popped up on my Instagram feed. Sharelle Grant.
Let's just for one second. I send you so many reels and you don't send any back. I feel like it's a very big friendship thing to do online, right? You share reels with people that you like and you think are funny and you think would appreciate your reels. And this morning I went to share Jack a reel and our chat on Instagram is just like me. I've sent Jack like 20 reels and he sent none back. So what's that about?
All right, I don't know.
Come on. But I'm pretty sure, maybe a month ago I sent you this reel.
I'll play the reel right now so everybody knows what we're talking about.
In the fitness industry need to understand their privilege. I say this from a place of love. Say that before I go ham, don't I? It's 11:05 on a Monday. I've had 8 hours of sleep. I don't have any children and I'm at the gym. It's easier to maintain my body composition, to hit my macros, to get 4 to 5 training sessions in a week and hit a step target. I am privileged because of the lifestyle that I have. It's not because I'm more disciplined. So we need to cut this bullshit being like, oh, rely on discipline or can't always be motivated. Fitness and training and nutrition's hard. As personal trainers, it's our responsibility to make that easier for them, not discourage them because they're not up to our standard.
And we're back. If my editing skills were right, you just heard the clip, and it's Sharelle Grant talking about motivation and how, you know, she's created this life of she can basically train whenever she wants, and that's a privilege, and it's her job to, you know, motivate her clients. It's not their job to stay motivated, basically. Is that what you got from it?
I think the first time I watched it, the first thing so you took a very different message away from it to what I did.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to listen to it.
Okay. What I took away from it was that as a coach, not everyone has the same amount of flexibility and time. Like, my clients don't have the same amount of flexibility and time as I do. So maybe my expectations of them might need to change. So an example, like, I just pretty much have my own schedule. It's very flexible. I do whatever the heck I want all day, every day, mostly, unless I have to go to class or we have to record a podcast or I have a scheduled call. But mostly very, very flexible. So I can train whenever. I can cook whenever. I eat at home all the time. And maybe I put those expectations on my clients too, when in reality, they're stuck at work 9 to 5. They have kids. They have to go to appointments after school and work. So that's sort of like, that's probably not what she wanted, because she's like, new ick unlocked. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like, this video was an ick for me. Like, the way that she presented it, I didn't like it. But that's what I thought. I was like, oh, maybe I should change my expectations of my clients a little bit. Not to, like, let them get away with everything, you know what I mean? Because that's what they're paying me for. But just to put in perspective of, like, I am privileged to go to the gym whenever I want, to cook all of my meals at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What did you take from it?
Yeah, well, it goes... Like, I think she was trying to, you know, it's very obviously scripted to the point where she was trying to, you know, ruffle some feathers to get it shared. And obviously it worked. We're talking about it.
You have to on social media these days.
Yeah. And look, I think she was having a dig at me personally, because we've been talking about motivation and how, you know, what is motivation. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer with motivation, but people rely on that motivation to get going too much. And then I sort of felt like she's like saying to me, it's your job to motivate your clients to get to the gym. And yes, 100%. But the way she was saying it's like, if you don't do it, they're not going to go. And that can be quite dangerous as well. So yes, I need to motivate my clients to go to the gym and be chasing goals and motivated to live a long, healthy, happy life. But I don't want them to rely on me.
Yeah. I feel like our whole philosophy is we want you to graduate from us.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the time when we have a new client, it'll be more intense. We'll talk to them heaps. Jack will see them heaps. And then as they get better at doing it by themselves, or they don't need Jack or myself as much, they like take it down a notch and they see us less, and then they take it down a notch, and then eventually they can do it by themselves. Isn't that the point? That's what every trainer should be trying to do with their clients.
Yes and no. But unfortunately, I'd say 90% of the gym health space is make people rely on you.
Yeah.
Because it's more financially better for that gym, personal trainer, all that sort of stuff. Because if they're not going to go to the gym without me and they're relying on me, then yeah, that's awesome. They're going to be paying me a shitload of money to go to the gym. And I think that's very, again, obviously everybody can listen to this clip and take something different from it, but what I would like people to take from this clip is don't rely on everybody else for your own motivation. And again, don't rely on motivation.
Yeah.
Like, you just know what you need to do these things to be a healthy person and all that. So just go and do them.
Yeah.
Like, I know, motivation and all that sort of stuff, but it's just forget about motivation. It just comes to the point where you've just got to go and do the things. Yes, I understand people live hectic lives, kids, work, cooking food, all that sort of stuff. But again, if you want something, you can do the things you need to do to. Again, you don't have to spend a couple of hours a day like Sharelle Grant does working out. Like, you don't need to be a bodybuilder to be healthy.
But I think that's our job, like, is to help whoever the person is and whatever their situation is, find ways that they can sustainably be healthy, like do exercise, and you know what I mean? Like, I think her problem with a lot of, she captioned it, new ick unlocked 20-something-year-old PTs and coaches that tell others to just be disciplined, like me. Like, that was her caption. So, like, yeah, I feel like that is a problem online. It's like all of these small guys and gals that are shredded are like,
get up, have a coffee, go for a run, sauna, work out, have breakfast, then start your day. Yeah. And that's
not practical.
It's not practical at all. And I 100% agree with her on that point. But at the point where, like you said, like our goal is to teach our clients, because sometimes it's hard to see what you're doing and not doing. Yeah. So it's our job to show them what they're not doing, what they could be doing within their busy life.
It's like how we talked about in routines last week. There is no one routine that defines all. You know what I mean? It's very individual.
Yeah. And yes, it might take me a little bit more effort, us a little bit more effort to motivate that person to do those things at start. But getting them hooked on that motivation is like a drug. And the more they're hooked on that, the more they're going to pay us the longer they're going to pay us to stay on that drug of whatever it is. So, again, big message from that I took was everybody listening who is trying to improve their health and fitness, don't rely on your coach, your personal trainer, inspirational posts on Instagram to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
You rely on you. And if you're struggling with that, you've got to, again, take time to find out what works for you and fits within your schedule to achieve those goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, she had a rant at me. I felt like that was an attack at me.
Why did you take it so personally?
Oh, I didn't take it personally. It's just like,
again, do you think you sometimes do that too much?
No, it's just what we've been talking about with motivation and discipline, and how it's a little bit BS and you've just got to do the things you need to. And I'm telling my clients to do that. And yes, I don't take in consideration their busy lives and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I don't want to be there. They're relying on me to motivate them, because that's a very big trap for both of us, basically. Them financially and me time spent, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway. My rant back's over.
Sharelle. Okay. The next thing that, well, I don't know, you were going to bring this up, and then I was like, should I bring it up? Because I brought it up to you.
And you never gave me an answer.
Well, because there is no answer. Okay, so what is the evolutionary purpose of depression? This was just something we talked about in one of my units the other week. So I'm doing a developmental psychology unit this semester, and we're talking a lot about like evolution and epigenetics and development mentally, physically, which is incredible. But one of the things we talked about, like in the smaller class where we basically just discuss, was like the evolutionary purpose of different things in relation to psychology, like happiness.
Well, what's the evolutionary need for happiness?
Well, so what we discussed in class was to survive, right? So if you are, like, if you're full, like if you're not hungry, then you're going to be happy. Everyone knows that when they're hungry, they get hangry. If you have a good support network and friends and family around you, you're happy. If you feel safe and like content in like shelter or something, you're generally happy. So I think that the emotion of happy is a signal to your brain that everything is good and this is what we should keep doing to stay alive.
Okay.
But then depression was much more like mystical when we discussed it in class, because I don't know, I can't really yet see what the clear like survival purpose of depression is. The things that we discuss, wait, can you what do you think it is before I say?
That's what I wanted to talk about ever since you said it.
Well, why didn't you ask me? Like, we do live together.
I know, but I wanted to have a good answer before I brought it up, and I have nothing.
And you got nothing, right? It's really, really hard. So what we talked about in class was, like, from a developmental perspective, as you age, I think, like, the teenage years, obviously, emotions are a lot stronger and harder to control because your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet. So like your decision making and your reasoning isn't really there like it is when you're older. So it could be like that teens and stuff experience depression as a way to withdraw socially and like manage their emotions in isolation. But then does that cause the depression to be worse? Because we all know that like community and social support is like a really critical factor in being happy and combating things like depression.
Well, wouldn't that just be the opposite to happiness? So happiness equals we're doing the right thing, keep doing this so we can live a long, healthy life. And if you fall into depression, again, it should be managing those things, going, okay, this isn't good, this isn't working, this leads to death.
Yeah.
So start doing the happy things.
What is making me feel? But then are we talking about depression or sadness? Because I think they're two different things.
I guess it's in how you interpret it,
yeah.
isn't it?
Like I definitely agree. But like when you're feeling these bad things, it's your brain telling you that something isn't right. But now, like what, like I think there's so many things. Like it's so common for people to be depressed now. So is it like there's so many things wrong, or are we oversensitive to things being wrong?
I think it's more like there's nothing wrong. So what is there to be depressed about? But that's almost the issue in itself that causes the depression.
Is it almost like what is there to be happy about? So then just by default people are more depressed?
No.
Because the same things that made us happy like however many hundreds of thousands of years ago just don't seem to be making people happy anymore. You know, it's like it's not enough. Like the basic needs of survival, I think, are not enough right now.
I think I've spoken about this before. It's like for the last, say, 2 decades, like 20, 30 years, probably maybe longer. But if you want to be an entrepreneur or start a business, it's like find a problem and solve it. And for the last 30, 40 years, we've been finding problems and solving them. We haven't really got any problems anymore, really. Like physically, like, you know, it's to a point where you have to go to a gym to move, to be healthy, because you literally don't have to do any sort of movement outside the gym, really. You can get everything delivered. You can do your work from home. You don't have to go for a walk to get stuff. You don't need to cook stuff. So it's like there's no physical problems. So does that, you know, there's no...
So you think that like problem solving is a big part of us being happy? Like the other question that we discussed in class was, what is the evolutionary purpose of creativity? And I came home and I was like to Jack, what's the purpose of creativity? He's like, everything. Everything around us is creative.
I thought that one was...
See, whereas I was like, what the heck? Why do we need paintings? Like, sure, they're nice to look at and people can tell their stories, but that's it. People can tell their stories through them. They might make us happy. They can communicate things. Because
painting started in the caves and all that sort of stuff because people didn't live long enough. So it was like a guy with a spear aimed at a buffalo.
This is how we get food to survive.
Yeah, and because people didn't live long enough, they could just look on the walls like, oh, that's what we do to eat.
Yeah.
So obviously that's how art started and creating that way. But again, that can just go into everything we're doing now. And again, creating, creation and all that sort of stuff to solve problems and all that sort of thing. Like, again, art and all that sort of stuff. Like, again, it's just somebody's way of creating and solving a problem. Yeah, I don't know.
So we don't really have an answer.
What is your thoughts, everybody listening?
Why do we still get depressed? I've been thinking about it a lot. Maybe we'll come back with an answer, but we couldn't answer it in class, so I don't think there's a definitive answer. Just more of a thought experiment.
But I think it was just like humans have evolved so quickly over the last, say, 100 years. I don't think our brains and our chemistry in our body has been able to keep up. So we've still got that primitive brain that, depression equals stop doing that, go in that direction, go towards happiness. But it's just our surroundings have evolved so fast that our primitive brain might not be able to catch up and go, hey, happiness is over that way.
Yeah.
And we have so many external things again. Yeah.
But why is it so hard now to go from, Like theoretically we survived as long as we did because when we felt depressed we went towards happiness. But why now is it's so much harder to change directions, right? Like obviously you can't just be like, okay, I'm not going to be depressed anymore, I'm going to be happy.
Because what do people do when they're depressed?
The same things that make them more depressed.
Exactly. And usually it is social media, all that sort of stuff. So it's like you get trapped in that thing of, you know, I'm depressed, so I'll go on social media, see what's happening, but then it almost can make you more depressed if you're not if you're not aware of it.
Yeah, and also do you think that, like, from a social perspective, because like being supported is very, very important, being liked is very, very important to survive, and then like going on social media is like theoretically the place where the community is now, but then it's also the place that makes you depressed. So it's like we're trying to seek the community, but at the same time where we find the community is also causing depression.
So that's stimulus for your brain. But then also we know now that food affects mood. So what do you do when you're unhappy?
Eat junk food?
Yeah, so it makes that even worse. So you got both stimulus coming in through the eyes and then obviously what you're eating through your body as well. I think those two can be quite dangerous and easy to get caught in. But again, why haven't we evolved to counteract that?
Why haven't we evolved something like willpower, but maybe not necessarily willpower, to help us not do these things? Or is that to come? But then also in class we were talking about what's it going to look like in 100 years' time with all of technology. Like how are we physically going to evolve with the technology? Like someone's like, are we going to get a third eye just to be able to interpret all of the screens around us?
Yeah. Well, again, like how do you combat all these companies spending billions of dollars on research to just maintain our attention? Like, how do you combat that? Okay, cool.
Anyway, we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to it in maybe a year's time and see what we think. Okay, this is let's change direction a little bit.
Good.
Get out of the deep and meaningful philosophy and
come back to us, everybody.
And into the practical things that you can do. I really want to talk about mouth breathing. So I think potentially 3 years ago, maybe even longer, maybe 5. When did we do our first road trip to Queensland? Probably 5 years ago.
Stupid mouth breathers.
What?
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
Why did you say stupid mouth breathers? I was a mouth breather. So 5 years ago, we did our first road trip from Victoria to Queensland, and we were listening to a podcast about mouth breathing, about the guy who wrote the book. No, the guy who was being interviewed, I'm pretty sure, is the guy who wrote the book Breath, which I am yet to read. But I learned a lot from this episode anyway, and that is when I started my journey of not mouth breathing. Because you are not a mouth breather, have never been a mouth breather.
Why would you?
I don't know. No one told me it was wrong, okay? But now, 5 years later, mouth taping and nasal breathing is like the new trend. Like my feed is all like, buy this mouth tape, buy this mouth tape, buy this mouth tape.
I was doing it before it was cool.
One of those, are you? Anyway, so I just wanted to talk about it because I feel like way back when we discovered it, we talked about it a lot and everyone was like, ick, I'm not taping my mouth when I go to sleep. That's scary. Like you used to talk about it in your gym all the time to everyone. And everyone was like, you're crazy, Jack. That's just so dumb.
You'll suffocate.
You've still
got 2 nostrils.
But now it's cool. So let's talk about it again. So I think some of the things that research has shown mouth breathing is correlated with is asthma, which I had as a kid, ADHD, never diagnosed, but potentially, sleep disorders, 100%, chronic fatigue, 100%, allergy reactions, 100%, facial disfiguration, so like the shape of your jaw, 120%, poor dental health, 160%. Like I had all of these things because I grew up being a mouth breather. So I think that mouth breathing isn't just when you go to sleep. It's like any time in the day. I was just constantly breathing through my mouth. So when I was younger, I had like all of the things that I just listed terribly. Also a bunch of other things that haven't been correlated, but I'm sure are correlated with it now. Like gut health problems, skin problems, all of like everything. Because our mouths were designed.
Getting sick all the time.
Getting sick poor immune, like I had the worst immune system ever. But Moral of the story, our mouths were designed for us to talk and eat. Our nose was designed for us to breathe because it filters all of like the allergy, what do you call them? Like the pollens, everything that comes in
dust,
your body. Your nose is a filter, so it doesn't get to your lungs, right? And at some point, we've changed to breathing through our mouth. Do you know why? Why it happened? But yeah, also when you breathe through your mouth, you are like generally in fight or flight mode, because if you had the need to breathe through your mouth as a caveman or whenever mouth breathing wasn't as common, it was because like you were running or like you were stressed or you're doing some sort of physical activity. So I'm not saying you can never breathe through your mouth. Like if you're exerting yourself, sure, breathe through your mouth because you need extra oxygen. But generally, just breathing through your nose is what we should be doing. Go on, I feel like you've got something to say.
No, it's a very hard habit to break and adopt, but it is, again, one of the best things you can possibly do. It's one of these things that, again, just drinking more water is good for your health, and everybody goes, yeah, whatever, and just dismisses it. But actually breathing through your nose and shutting your mouth for whenever you're not using it, like you said, it's just such a game changer. It can improve everything. I find I'm a lot more relaxed. If you can just, again, I guess it's that flight or fight mode when your mouth is open. If you're constantly with your mouth open, your body's just like, where am I going? What am I doing? And all that, where if you can just stop and breathe through your nose, you're a lot calmer. And I think a lot of people do need that these days. And people, rely on meditations, all this sort of stuff, and sauna, and they might do nasal breathing techniques and all that sort of stuff, or box breathing, but then they breathe through the mouth for the rest of the day. You're probably better off just trying to breathe through your nose while you're sitting at your desk or doing whatever you do during the day, rather than doing all that other stuff.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Like I cannot emphasize to you guys enough how much changing from breathing through my mouth to my nose has changed my life. Like I so desperately wish that my mum knew this when I was a kid and had have intervened to try and get me to breathe through my nose instead, because obviously, like when we started this, I also was like to Jack, I can't. I cannot tape my mouth shut at night because it was like I didn't use my nasal passageway enough. So it felt like I was suffocating. It felt like I couldn't get enough oxygen in through my nose because I wasn't used to it. So it will be very hard to start with. Like if you are a mouth breather, it's going to be hard to change. It's going to be hard to tell your brain to shut your mouth and breathe through your nose. And it's going to feel hard to actually have enough air in you because it's different. It's the way the air is getting to your lungs is different.
So that's probably why it's best to tape your mouth at night, because your muscles through your nose and nasal passage need to get strong again and actually work. So taping your mouth at night and then falling asleep, they have to do it. They don't have a choice, where obviously during the day and you're awake and you're aware, they do have a choice sort of, because if you start breathing through your nose and it's hard, you're just going to open your mouth and you're not going to notice. But if you got it taped during the night, you can't do that. So it's a good place to start taping your mouth at night, just so those muscles get used to working again. Because as soon as you sort of start breathing through your mouth and you haven't done it before, through your nose and you haven't done it before, you're going to struggle to get air in, or it feels like you're suffocating. So you're going to just open your mouth and use your mouth.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had 3 ways that I would suggest to start nasal breathing, because of first-hand experience. The first one was going to be like awareness. So during the day. And it's hard. Like you have this information now and you might occasionally notice that you're doing it and then start to breathe through your nose. But trust me, as soon as you stop thinking about it, your mouth's going to open. So I used to have I used to put sticky notes all over the house. Do you remember that? To remind myself of positive things and stuff. Put sticky notes everywhere. Just breathe through your nose.
Close your mouth.
Close your mouth. Put you can draw a little nose if you want. Draw little lips. Just put them everywhere.
I do that to my clients all the time. Close your mouth. Yeah. Breathe through your nose. No, look at me like I'm just close your mouth.
Also setting, not alarms, because maybe that's too drastic, but reminders on your phone. So it's like a little notification every time you pick up your phone that just says, make sure you're breathing through your nose. Just little things to prompt you, because it is like a constant thing you have to monitor. And then I was going to say to tape your mouth at night when you go to bed. And then the third one I was going to say was try a nasal strip as well. Maybe you want to try a nasal strip and taping your mouth at the same time, because it does, like, I was skeptical in the beginning because I'm like, just this little piece of plastic over my, like, bridge of my nose, how's that going to do anything? Like, what? Garbage. It is incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, I was the same. I didn't think that'd work, but yeah.
And everyone I've suggested it to is like, whoa, what is this witchcraft?
And again, you should have those muscles that keep your nostrils open, but again, we don't use them as much anymore. So those muscles get weak, and basically your nostrils, nasal cavity sort of collapses on us. Not technically, but sort of. So those just open it back up so that you can actually get air through.
And also, also, if you live in Melbourne and the weather is chaotic and the pollen is ridiculous, I find some days when the weather's different, my nasal passage is just like slightly more inflamed, so it's harder. So having nasal strips, like, maybe don't use them every night because it does occasionally hurt my skin. But if you save them for like days when the pollen is terrible, and it just helps open everything up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people will go straight to antihistamines, where if you just sort of breathe through your nose a little bit more and maybe get these nail strips just to help that happen, your nose will do what it's meant to do, and you don't need the antihistamines. Again, to a certain extent, obviously, I have certain reactions, real bad reactions to certain pollens, and I do need the antihistamines. But if it's just a general dusty sort of, pollen-y day, just those nail strips will get the job done.
Nasal. Were you saying nail?
Yeah, what?
Yes. Wait. I've got one more thing that I didn't think to add, but it came to me. When you're doing your zone 2 cardio, like your light or your warm up in the gym, I think when I started putting emphasis on just breathing through my nose while doing, like, I usually do like 3 to 5 minutes of zone 2 cardio, like light intensity, just walking on the steps before my training session. And I always try to keep my mouth shut. And it does get hard. It gets progressively harder, but that's the point, because I think it just helps my nasal passageway. Maybe, I'm not really sure, like, the structure of inside your nose and everything, but I'm pretty sure, I feel like it just helps it get, like, stronger almost to be able to, like, take in the air. I don't know. And then after that, I always feel like I can breathe a lot better because I've, like, spent a little bit of time forcing myself to really pump some air through there.
Yeah, well, like, we all have those muscles in there no matter what you think. Like, everybody has the muscles to be able to move their ears in their face.
That's freaking creepy, man.
But no one can do it because we don't do it.
What's the purpose?
Yeah. So some people can. Obviously, from kids, they start moving their ears and just continue doing it, and those people can do it because they continue doing it.
Yeah.
Same with the muscles in your nose and around your nose. So the more you work it, I was just going to call out my brother on this one. Next time we're together, remind me, and I'll get a photo next to us, like smash our faces together and get a photo. So he's always been a mouth breather. I've always been a nose breather. And it literally does change the structure. Obviously, we're not the same person, but we've got the same genetics. We're only 2 years apart, and we've got a completely different face structure because he has always breathed through his mouth, and I've always breathed through my nose.
I think my face structure has changed in the last 5 years since trying to breathe more. Do you think? You can't remember what my face looked like when you met me? God.
Look, again, it does. Like, it's obviously going to change your face structure.
Cool. That's all I've got. Do you have anything else?
No, I reckon we leave it there. Obviously, if you've lasted this long, you've enjoyed the episode. We've gone up and down and back up again.
That's the wrap up, isn't it?
That is the wrap up. As always, we want to hear your opinion on all these, especially the middle topic there of depression. Again, we don't bring this up to have an answer. It's just more of a discussion. We like bringing these up because the more you think about these things, the more you can address them, especially with something as, important as depression or sadness. So it's always good to be thinking of those things and ways to improve it. And that's why we bring these up. So if you've got any good opinions or ways to, counteract those, would love to hear it, and we can talk about it on the next episode. As I was saying that, I do remember one listener reached out after last week's protein question. Is protein good for kids? Was the question.
Mm-hmm.
And this listener actually feeds her kids protein powder in the morning. She will mix it up in oats for one of the kids, and instead of chocolate milk, I'm pretty sure she said she gives them the other kid a chocolate protein shake.
That makes way more sense. There's like no sugar compared to a chocolate milk.
And like, we didn't even bring this up in the show, and she said that there's a bunch of studies out there to show that a high protein in the morning helps with insulin spikes and mood and hunger throughout the day. And she said since she's been doing this, she can completely notice the difference in her kids. So there's a real world example of, yes, protein is like, obviously you might not have time to cook your kids a high protein meal in the morning. So yeah, 100%. If you've got protein powder there and they won't eat any other sources of protein, 100%. There's a good example there, and she has completely noticed the difference in her kids throughout the day because she has started doing that.
Cool.
So good real world example, and we'll leave it there. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.